Okay, today I'm going to show you how I process a geode. A geode is a rock with a interesting crystalline structure on the inside and usually a hole of some sort. They're split in half or split whatever way you can do it using a hammer and a chisel. Some of them are fairly fragile. The one I'm showing today was pretty solid. The hole is only this big. Now, when I photograph these, I focus stack the images. So to do that, I focus on the part that's closest to the camera, which was this side and right up in here. And then the camera takes a series of shots. I've got it set for 50, where it takes 50 shots and it goes all the way to infinity from this closest point. So I need to just pick out the ones that are going to matter to me, which is the ones in focus from the very top to my background. So to do that, I've got them selected here, and I generally jump in groups of about 10. And you can see as I go to the first 10, things come in a little more sharper in different areas. So we'll try 15, and it's getting better. This one now is sharp or somewhat sharp. Let's see, let it pop in. It's getting better. What I'll do about here is I will zoom in and I'll watch for this because this is the part that needs to get sharp. And I will go to 20 and see how that works. And you can see we're getting sharper. And at 25, it looks like it's really sharp. And let's bring it through. And I go 26, and it's starting to go beyond uh, the background. And I usually go one or two extra just to make sure I've got it completely covered front to back. So it looks like 27 images is what it took. I then went to the grid mode and selected all 27 of them, and I hit the 4 stars so that I know that I have these 4-star ones are the ones that I'm going to process. Now, now that they're all selected, I just go under Photo, Edit In, and open as layers in Photoshop. And this will then bring up Photoshop and it will start loading in the 27 shots. Now, this does take some time because these are 45 megapixel images and it takes a while for the computer to bring them all in, even though everything is solid state. Sorry about my cat in the background. Okay, it looks like all 27 are in. So now we just need to select all the layers. You start at the top, scroll down to the bottom, hold the shift key down, click on the bottom layer so all of them are selected. Then we go up into edit and down to auto align layers. What this does is it aligns all the layers up because they do shift a little bit as the lens focuses to the next step. And we want all of them to be perfectly in line. So this will take and line them all up um, and make it a perfect, everything in perfect alignment. This does take a few minutes to do. Okay, so now they're all aligned. Now we need to go through the stack and pick all the focused areas. So you go to Auto Blend Layers and you use the stack and create seamless tones and colors, and any blank areas it will fill in. This does take a certain amount of time. We'll come back when it's all done. Okay, so I get a warning, and this sometimes pops up when you're aligning the images, that no more than 50% were selected. And so you just click OK and you don't worry about it. As you can see, the images now have all been masked, and I start at the bottom and I will select this bottom image. And you can see, though, they're all masked. You can see there's a few blank spots where there isn't anything that would have been in focus. And you go all the way to the top, and it also, when it's done, creates a merged layer. So I go to the top of the stack of images, select all of those by holding the shift key, and then I trash it, because if I didn't, right now it's 8.61 gigabytes in file size, and it really slows down the computer. And now that they're stacked, and you can pretty much see that everything's in focus from the front of the geode all the way back to the background. So I'll trash that, just to give my computer a little more working space. I'm going to go to the Move tool, because the next step, and sometimes while it was doing an alignment, it does make a selection. So I also do a Command or Control D to get rid of any selections that might be. And you can see there must have been something, because it was uh, had the bars showing. So now I have my merged layer, and the next step is going to be to remove the background. So I click Remove Background, and it 1, 2, 3, it's done. You can see that it didn't do it perfectly. There's some stuff here that I don't want, because all I want are the rocks. So I pick the quick selection tool. That usually works the best. And if I hold the Z key so I can zoom in, I will zoom in on this one first, and I will select this plastic base that is holding the rock. Um, Now, you can be a little sloppy here, because you can go and hold the Option or Alt key, and this will then do a minus selection. You can get rid of make sure all the rock is in place, but not the plastic. And it looks like I've got that all. Um, I then go over to here to make sure that I am on the layer mask, and I fill that in with black, and that will get rid of that base. And you can see it did a pretty good job. I'll deselect, and sometimes you do get a line. We'll take a look at that after I do this one and create a black background to make it a little easier to see. You want to get back onto the photo so that it's a little easier to select, and just can zip right along. And let's see, we got just a couple here where it hit the rock, and right around in here. Okay, so the whole rock, go back to the mask, and go down to fill, fill with black, and now the base is pretty much gone. I can see there's some cleanup area, but to see it a little easier, I'm going to create a blank layer, drag that down below my subject, go under edit, fill, and fill with black. You could fill with any color that you'd like. I happen to like black. I think it makes the rock stand out the best. Now, you can see the selection wasn't quite perfect, so I'm going to go to the brush tool, which is right here, and I want to paint with black, so we'll switch it to black, and we want to be on our mask, and then we can just paint out with black anything that we don't want. This goes fairly quick. I also check the base of the rock to make sure there isn't anything I missed. If you hold the space bar, you can move over, and it looks like we got everything on this one. So I'm going to hit the Command or Control 0, and that shows the whole image, just the way the whole window. I am going to pick the Move tool so that I can center up this geode so it's in the center of the frame. I've got guides that help me line it up. Now I'm going to crop it down to a size that I use, which is 16:9 ratio. I have a photo frame that I use for that, and so that's the photo ratio size that it works with. So I don't want to cut it off, and then I can also adjust so that the rocks are in the center of the field. So these are one rock split in half, so it's always nice to see do it that way. When I'm done, I can hit done, and now I've got the rocks here with all the nice interesting detail. Now I go one step further. I use Nik Color Effects, and so I will open up Nik, and I wanted to apply just on the merged layer of the rocks. I click open. Nik has changed this from previous versions. You now can do this all right from Photoshop using a little working off of the side here. So now it's opened up Nik Color Effects. I have a number of presets, and I've got some rock presets that I call, I've got rock number 3, which brings out a whole lot of extra detail in the rock that you don't normally see. I also have one that's number 5, which is slightly less. I actually, for this rock, like number 3. What it is actually is two of their things. One is detail extractor. I found that this setting works really well for rocks, so I keep it about there, but I can play with it to see if I get something more that I'd like. I can adjust my contrast and saturation. Generally, I'm pretty happy with that. The other one that I use is sunlight. I've got light strength that I can adjust. As I bring it up, it just makes it stronger. I can adjust the color temperature, which is nice because I can warm the rock up if I need to. And I will try to find an area that I feel should be white, and I will adjust the color temperature from blue to yellow. And it looks like it's going to be about, oh, it's touchy today. Right about there. I can then adjust the brightness I don't want to blow out any highlights, so I make sure that I watch that. If I think I need more contrast, saturation, I always like a little bit more of, so we'll up that. I do have the opacity turned down. I find this setting works best for me, but you can adjust the opacity for both detail extract or whatever. I had set these both up using just the regular uh, filters and then creating my own preset using a save preset when I found it something that worked pretty often. So I'm happy with that. I'm going to apply, and there's my final product. I hit save. Now, this will take a little bit of time saving because it is a large file. We'll go back to Lightroom. There is the file. So I just do a little cleanup from here. Um, you can see, and that's why I like to star the ones that I'm working with. The ones that I didn't need are over here on the side, and there's quite a few of these files, and at 45 megabytes, I will delete them and make sure you don't just remove them from Lightroom, but delete them from the disk. I then click on my final image. I go Command or Control A to select all of those files, and then Command Control G to group them all together. So I just have this image here. Now I will take it into Lightroom, and oh, I can see that I missed on some of that framing. I didn't realize that there was some on the top. Now I could either go back and try to get rid of it on the original, which is probably what I really would do. But let's try something different since I don't really want to have to go backwards. We will use the remove tool, and you can see that you want to get all of it. And I'm going to have to go in there because I can't quite get to the other spot. You want to get all these blank areas. I don't know if this will work or not, but we will find out. It's analyzing it, and it's going to pick a whole area of it, and it did pretty good. I'm going to have it just get this last little bit, and let's see what happens when we hit remove. I don't think it's going to probably work as well. Well, we get three choices. That one's actually pretty good. I could live with that. That one's not bad either. I'm not as worried about it being completely accurate. Um, I actually think that one's probably good for this particular version of it, and I have a number of versions. This would work fine, and um, the other part that I see that I need to remove is that missed it. I like to catch this stuff while I'm in Photoshop. Some days I miss it, so I will try to get it here quick. Um, I'm going to subtract because I don't want it to hit any of the rock and change that rock if I don't have to. And then just hit remove. This one's pretty simple. I could probably even have used the clone stamp tool, but I like the remove tool. Um, and you don't really have to go through the three. But that gets you how I work with the geodes. I've started to do both sides of the geode in one shot. Um, the last actual step that I end up doing is I have a place that I store these once I've processed them, and it is in the open geode area. And we'll go down to that. I drop it in there and move it. That moves real quick. And then I know that that's a processed geode. What I'll end up doing is I probably, once I'm happy that I know that the final result is good, I will get rid of those extra images to cut down on the hard drive space. But I get a lot of interesting ones. We can go in here. Oh, the one thing I forgot to do was to give it 5-star rating because it's finished. You can see here's one that's real similar to it, but I processed it using one of my other presets. And a lot of times I will do it by itself. Um, these here are actually ultraviolet ones, and they're in the wrong spot. So while I'm in here, I'm just going to move them over to my ultraviolet ones. Don't know why I accidentally. This one is both. This was shot both under daylight and ultraviolet at the same time as an experiment. I'm going to move it to the ultraviolet just because it's a better spot for it. With the ultraviolet, they fluoresce in different looks and that. I believe this one might be ultraviolet too, so let's get that one. Boy, I really sort of messed up on some of these. So, but let me show you the rest of what I've got. I've got quite a few different rock images. Um, like I say, there's a lot of different shapes, colors, different types of crystals, and it's just a ball breaking them open, just using a hammer and tapping on them until they break in half or break apart. Sometimes I get just part of it. This is, I think, the other half of it. So, and you get, with the focus stacking, you get everything sharp from front to back, all the way to the back of it. And you can see how you get just different results with them. Now the other thing, oh, and I can see I got some cleanup on that one to do. The other thing that I do is I do create abstracts from these. And so let me pick one that might work well. Let's see. I've been meaning to try. Oh, that's got a lot of interesting patterns and use. So let's take this in to the develop module, and what I'll do is create a virtual copy, and then I will crop this to 16 by 9, which is what it already is, but I just want the crystals themselves. So we'll come in pretty close here. Let's see, we can actually tilt it like this. And I think that's not bad, right about there. Then what I do is with the remove tool, I will get rid of this black up here. And I do each section by itself. And I hit remove. Because I want an image that covers all 4 corners. I'll take a look at the 3 different choices to see if one works better than the other. And that one, I think I like that better. We'll get this here. And I can see a little bit of black that I want to get rid of there. So I'll get both of those while I'm down there. And again, I go through all 3 to see if one does something better than the other. Let's get this corner. Yep, and the last corner. These abstracts have gotten to be a lot of fun. I came up with this technique partially from Phil Itea, that we've had on Digital Forum in the past, and I just took what he had done and modified it to work for what I wanted to do. Ooh, I think I like that first one the best. That one's not bad. That's not bad, but I think I'll go with that one. So now we have our full image, and a lot of interesting patterns in it. So I go photo, edit in, and just edit in Photoshop. And with Lightroom adjustments, I'm going to close this panel. And we don't need to be in the crop mode because we're good there. So we're just going to go to the move tool. Now, I normally do this. I have an action that for abstracts, but I will do this all manually just to show you how I do it. I'm on the background, and Control J will make a duplicate copy, and I make 3 copies so that I have 4 total. I then go to Image, Canvas Size, and I change inches into percent, and I go 200%. I tab over and do the other height 200%, and I anchor it in one corner so it all goes one way. And it doesn't matter. I use the foreground colors, so it could be black or white. I just need some sort of background. And I click OK. So if I go Command or Control 0, it shows the whole image. I'm on the move tool, so what it will do is I've got it set to auto select, so it picks whatever layer that I'm on, and I can move this over till it lines up. I then take the image and I flip it horizontally. And you can see it creates an interesting pattern right here. Now, I take the next image, which is the next image down, and I drag that straight down. And I flip it vertically. I always have to think because I don't have to do this manually that often. Flip it vertically, and you can see it creates a nice mirror image right here. Now, I take the last one, move it down here, get it lined up. I have everything snapping to a grid, so it makes it a lot easier. Now this one, I have to transform and flip horizontally, and then I have to flip it vertically. So this one I have to do 2 transforms. And you can see now that I've created a really interesting pattern where these pictures have met. So once I have that set, I go down to Layer, and I flatten all layers so that I have just one layer. Now I take and I duplicate the layer, Command or Control J to duplicate the layer. I go up into Edit, transform and I rotate clockwise. Now I'll take, and I've got Lightroom's or Photoshop so that it's already in a transform mode. I hold the shift key down so it just adjusts one side, and I drag this to fill the frame. First both sides, left and right. Then I do Command or Control 0 to show the whole image. I hold the shift key again, and then I do the top and the bottom. And I hit enter to lock that in. So you can see I got another interesting pattern right here. Now I'm going to merge these two together by using a blending mode. And there are a number of different blending modes here. So I will go through them, and I try darken, see how that looks, and that gives a pretty good look. I'm not, that one may work. Multiply just multiplies the two together, and you get a little darker look. And you just can go through all of these, and you never know which one might look the neatest. Light just blends in all the light tones, and sometimes screen works. Color dodge, whoops. Lighter color is sometimes not bad. Overlay just lays the two together and gives an interesting look. Soft light is another interesting one. Hard, vivid, pin, and hard mix. Sometimes difference gives a really interesting look. I've started to play with that one. Exclusion generally doesn't do too much. Subtract might be something interesting. Divide, hue. So you got all these different blending modes that you can try. Hue and color is interesting. Luminosity doesn't do much. I actually sort of like darken or multiply. I think we'll go with multiply. And let me zoom in. I'll hold the Z key, and that brings up the magnifying glass, just so you can see all the interesting, intricate patterns I've gotten by just taking and rotating the layers and merging them together. So a person could stop right here, but I like to sometimes add a little bit more to it. So what I'll do is, and I have presets to flatten layers just to make it quicker. So I'm just going to use one of my actions to flatten it. Do Command J to make a duplicate layer of it. And I'm going to go under Filter, and I use Jixi Pix, which gives either a pencil drawing look. This gives really interesting lines, and then watercolor look. I'm going to use spectral art because I want to brighten this up a little bit, and spectral art can really brighten things up. You have a lot of different settings that you just need to play with. This one might be a good one. You can see it just creates all sorts of interesting lines. Um, Smooth with detail. How about smooth with detail? I think that one might fill in nicely. And this takes a lot of fooling around. Um, yeah, bright detail is not bad. I think I'm going to go bright detail. And you can fine tune it if you want. Generally, I'm happy with the presets. And I'm going to apply that to the photo. And then that's when you start going into your blend modes, and you go through that all once more, darken, and that pretty much gets it to go away. Here you're starting to get something that's a little more interesting. Um, Lighter is probably too strong. That I don't like. Well, overlay works pretty good. I think I like that. And you could see the difference if I turn that layer off and turn it back on. And what I can do, and what I do a lot of times, is I drop that opacity of it to bring the regular back. And generally it's around 50 to 75%, works pretty well. And so you can see without and with. And if I hit the Z key and zoom in, you can see we still got all the intricate details. And this is a really big file. Um, and you can see the difference if I turn it off and turn it back on. It just gives some extra definition, extra color, and adds a few little stray lines in that really works sort of well. And but once you're happy with it, you can just save it. And like I said, it's a 300 or 400 megapixel file. We can go into Lightroom and wait for it to pop up. Sometimes it takes a while because it is a big file, but there it is. So now I will take it into develop, and I can adjust different things. First, I tend to play with the temperature slider to see if I maybe want to change it a little more to one color or another. Um, so far, that's pretty good. I will adjust the whites to bring it all the way across. And I just use the histogram. That does brighten it up a little bit. You do want to watch your highlights that you don't blow out any highlights. Come on. And then I usually add a little texture. And depending on my mood, I might go to a minus clarity just to give it a little bit of a glow. And because I'm really crazy on vibrance, I'll turn that up. Um, the last thing I tend to do is if I do want to change the color even more, I can use the color grading tool. And if I can pick, and I can make it more in the reds, yellows, greens, blue. And this is taking the medium tones. Um, I'm going to keep it, I'm going to make it actually just a little bit more in the red because I like that look right there. I can then adjust the shadows or the highlights if I want. If I do the highlights, I try to do opposite what I did for the regular. And I just want it to be subtle in it. So that's looking pretty good. The last thing that I would probably think about doing, and I don't know if I want to go minus or plus, but it already seems like it's vignetted, so I don't need to do a lot. But I'm wondering if just slight positive vignette. No, I think just a little negative, just darken those corners just a little bit so that it pushes you to the center. But you look and see the interesting detail of doing these abstracts, and it just gets to be fun. And I mean, they are so intricate with all the lines that end up popping up from those crystals. I have yet to get anything, and I do really the exact same thing on every image. So right now, this is stacked in an area where I don't want it. So I am going to right or control click and go to stacking and remove it from the stack for that geode. And I will just close that up. And then I'm going to move this to my abstract section. And that just takes a section. But let me show you all these different abstracts that I've gotten. Um, and it's just amazing. They're sort of fun to do, therapeutic, they're relaxing. Um, I tried different ways of doing it, and I have yet to get a single same looking object. And it just is a ton of fun. And for me, I love working just in Photoshop and just taking things easy and relaxing. And this to me is just a really relaxing way of getting interesting images from the different crystals that geodes that I've worked with. And you could see not one, and I have something like 100 of them right now, and they're all different. So if you want something that's a little screwy and different but fun, it's amazing the patterns you can get. And I'm just sometimes I get a little weird, and here I added lightning from a different plugin that I use. But lightning can be sort of fun because some of this stuff does look like it could be, you could do something like that with it. The colors, though, and just working with the different things, it's just sort of interesting what you can get. So that's how I process geodes, and then how I turn a lot of the geodes into an abstract image that I may try to sell one of these days. Who knows? But I hope you enjoyed this processing of images from my geodes. It's a new hobby that I've started, and it's a ton of fun. Thanks.